So since I've taken a break from making PSA content, the question in my mind has been, why do people like them? I wonder about that question a lot more now because I've overexposed myself to the topic and talked about it countless times to the point where I'm sick to death of them. But I want to take a step back and look at why people would get into PSAs after diving into the rabbit hole. But quickly before I get into that topic, you should subscribe. Also, check out my Patreon and channel memberships where you can get early access to new videos for as little as $1 a month. You definitely want to be a cool person and get early access to my new videos. Anyways, onto the video itself. Everyone's definitely seen a PSA in some shape or form before, if you know it or not. Even though PSAs seem like it's such a niche, but they're honestly everywhere. They're still around a lot today, but in the past they were definitely unavoidable to where you'd probably see them on a daily basis. But for people that don't understand what a PSA is, it's an acronym for public service announcements, as they seem to have started around the 1940s, around the time of the Second World War, with them being prominent in the US, with even campaigns like Smokey Bear starting around that time. The only thing before this that resembled a PSA was all the campaigns telling people that their armies need their help, such as the well-known drawing of Uncle Sam wanting you to join the US Army. But with those, they weren't trying to educate the viewer about living a safer life, they were more of an advertisement for the army to whether readers encouraged to join, or in some countries actually forced into joining. So with PSAs having an actual start in the 1940s, they managed to grow and grow as more countries implemented the idea, as they all saw it as a great idea to educate their people on how to live safer lives. There are way too many topics that a PSA could cover, but some of the main ones that they're well known for are speeding, drunk driving, abuse of all sorts, and drugs. PSAs really got their footing in the 80s, where they seemed to spread like wildfire, where every company was making a PSA about any topic they wanted to. There is one thing that came around that time that fueled the fire, which was the AIDS epidemic. Obviously it was a massive issue as lots of people were being affected by it, so companies were coming out to warn people about the dangers of AIDS and how to avoid getting it. There are quite a lot of PSAs from many different countries about the epidemic, with some even being controversial, such as the Aussie PSA titled Bowling from the company NAC AIDS. Seems pretty straightforward at first, where Green Reapers are bowling people over with a bowling ball. But the reason why it was so controversial is because the ad says that at first only gays and IV drug users were getting AIDS, which obviously stirred a bit of controversy between the LGBT community. Even with the controversy aside, Aussies still talk about this PSA to this day. And to show that, let's talk about another PSA around this time, but let's go to the US instead since they have some of the most well-known PSAs of all time. Talking about that, this is your brain on drugs. A very simple PSA where a guy comes out and compares fried eggs to the effects that drugs have on your brain. The line in the PSA being, "This is your brain, this is drugs, this is your brain on drugs," was so memorable that many different shows and movies parodied it for how memorable it really is. Even though the PSA itself is questionable, it's still stuck with people for how simple it is. But the same company that made that PSA, Partnership for a Drug-Free America, had a bunch of memorable PSAs in the 80s. Some of the most well-known ones from the 80s are Faces, Pot Surgeon, Diving Board, I Learned It By Watching You, and Snake. Some of them, such as Pot Surgeon and I Learned It By Watching You, were memorable for how stupid and funny they were, but the others were remembered for how disturbing they can be. People shut their pants when they saw the Snake Man, or saw that the woman dove into an empty pool, or the end of Faces where her face looks completely different to the point where she basically looks like a zombie. Other companies in the US managed to make memorable PSAs as well. Some that are genuinely good, such as the Family Violence Prevention Fund PSAs, or some that honestly are hilarious, such as the Pee-wee Anti-Drug PSA. The main PSA campaign I want to talk about, which I've talked about a million times now, is Vince and Larry the Crash Test Dummies. This campaign started right in the middle of the 80s with the company's Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration collaborating on making people buckle up, since only 14% of people did in the early 80s. It definitely helped that the campaign had such a good slogan with,
"You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt."
The campaign became such a big deal in the late 80s, early 90s that a toy line came from it, which actually started a big drama since they were selling toys of the two crash test dummies in the PSAs, Vince and Larry. Eventually they took those characters out of the toy line and brought in other named dummies, but there was going to be a show which would have been the first CGI television show which was based on the toy line. There is a pilot for the show on YouTube, but I wouldn't even recommend it. The show kind of sucks. The only good thing about it is the theme song. It actually kind of slaps. But after seeing what I would believe to be the peak of PSAs, where every company under the sun had to make a PSA, they started to appear less and less over time. They were still around quite a lot in the 90s, but when you get to the 2000s and even the 2010s, most companies that were making PSAs in the 80s were gone, and only a couple of newer companies came out to make PSAs. Some of the more notable ones are Truth, Real Cost, Fire Kills, Montana Meth Project, Greenpeace, and NSPCC. Now we come to the modern day, where you honestly don't see that many PSAs anymore. but you might rarely get one if you're watching TV, or they might even come up as a YouTube ad. I've had a couple come up on YouTube over the past few years, such as the Greenpeace PSA Turtle Journey, and a few WorkSafe Victoria PSAs since I live in the state of Victoria in Australia. But that comes the big question. Why do people even like PSAs? Well, looking back at them, I think it's a mixture of a few different things, but the main thing I can gather, besides from the quality of the PSAs themselves, is that they're nostalgic in a weird way. With PSAs being more obscure now, it takes people back to when they used to see these on TV, and either be interested in them or scared shitless by them. It takes people back to a simpler time where things aren't as bad as now, as depressing as that sounds. I definitely feel a bit of nostalgia for some PSAs, especially Australian PSAs I remember seeing on TV. They definitely have a nostalgic quality to them, similar to seeing an ad that really stuck with you when you're younger. Something I can compare it to is going back to watch a VHS or a DVD that you watched a lot as a child. It really makes you feel nostalgic. As the actual PSAs themselves go, there are a few different reasons as to why someone would like a PSA. There are PSAs that people ironically like because they might be so bad that they're hilarious, but there's some out there that convey their message so well that they unironically like them and think they're great. There are plenty of examples for both sides of this, but with the PSAs that are really effective, it's so impressive that they can convey their message in such a short time without it feeling forced. There's also the point that some PSAs can be so disturbing that in my opinion they can actually be scarier than most horror films out there, since some PSAs can be as real and honest with the viewer as possible. With the realism, some PSAs go really far with it and don't shy away from the really disturbing things behind the topic that they're covering. A lot of abuse PSAs do this, and some of them are honestly hard to watch. I know that I ended up becoming obsessed with PSAs because I saw them a lot on TV. I ended up looking up PSAs on YouTube and finding many other PSAs from other different countries and finding many compilation videos of them, and then at that point I was hooked. I dove further and further into the rabbit hole to the point where I've made so many videos about PSAs and started making them nearly 10 years ago. But personally, I've got to the point where I really have nothing else to say about PSAs. I'm quite a nostalgic person and I love talking about things I grew up with, but as PSAs go, this is the end. I appreciate all of you that have watched my PSA content over the years, but I'm retiring that part of my content. I'm a very nostalgic person. I'm going to be talking about the nostalgic things that I'm actually passionate about. I will continue to talk about shows and other things that I grew up with, such as my DCAU ranking videos of me already done Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and Batman Beyond, but as PSAs go, this is the end. If you're a fan of PSAs and you still want to watch PSA related content, I've got some channels to recommend to you. HelloImAPizza, Emilightning, Loogi Balloogi, Ads, and Wheatleyyy. Their links will be in the description, so if you do want to watch more PSA content, go give them a watch and tell them I sent you. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and even comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. You should check out my Patreon or channel memberships where you can join for as little as $1 a month to get early access to new videos. But before I go into the shoutouts, I do want to give you all a quick little update about everything with the channel. I'll be uploading only once a week now since my recent videos haven't been doing so well, and I'm honestly glad that they haven't been doing well since my recent videos have felt kind of rushed. It definitely makes me happy that the bigger videos I'm working on are actually doing well, such as my Batman Beyond video. As I'm recording this, it's almost at 19,000 views, which is honestly nuts. I really didn't expect it to do as well as it's already done, but you've all shown that's the kind of content you want. You guys want longer videos where I put more time and effort into them. So at the moment, I'm working on the Justice League video. By the time this video comes out, I'm probably further than halfway of scripting the video, but in between that, I'll be uploading once a week. I still want to upload once a week so you guys still have some content to watch in between the long videos, since if I literally just focused on the long videos, you guys would be getting a video once a month. I still want you guys to be able to watch stuff, but the good thing about that too is having a video once a week, I can put a bit more time into those videos where I'm at least somewhat happy with those videos that are coming out. That's a good thing too, because I actually haven't been happy with the videos I've been uploading recently, and that's why they've ended up being unlisted, which they're in the playlist that I have on the channel if you really want to watch them, but personally, I'm not happy with those videos, so that's why I unlisted them. Because if you ask me, they're fucking shit. Also, wow, I'm doing shoutouts on my camera? Hey, shout out to Ash Crimson and Brady for supporting my channel license tier. Lastly, massive thanks to Fatima, SamM1994, and Victoria Huntley for supporting my Big Boss tier. If you want to find out how you can get your name at the end of my videos, click the Patreon logo on screen at the moment, or click the join button next to the subscribe button where you can get your name to show up at the end of my videos for as little as $1 a month. With that all done, I'll see you on the next video.